Everybody for joining today. What's hopefully going to be a very insightful discussion. So just firstly to introduce myself, I'm James Lancer, the global sales manager here at London School of Cybersecurity. So yeah, very excited to be on board and really taking us on a mission here of what we're trying to achieve and what we'll discuss a little bit today. So yeah, the topic for today is how to navigate a rewarding career in cybersecurity. So hopefully the questions and the information that we speak about today is going to shed some light on that and our mission as well, and some of the industry challenges that we're trying to overcome and that we're seeing in the industry. So yeah, Priyanka, I'm not sure, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself to everyone, even though you don't need an introduction, and then we can kind of go on with the questions.
No, thank you so much, James, for this and for organizing this. So thank you so much for that. So I can see some known names and faces on the audience. So thank you for supporting here. So I'm Priyanka Chatterjee. I'm the founder of London School of Cybersecurity. I've been 20 years in the industry and traveled across the globe. On the side, I also do professional services and making sure that the organizations, the large enterprises, governments, they understand what cybersecurity risk is, what kind of things they should put in terms of controls, what processes, and what kind of people they need. And I know there's a lot of talk about the processes and the technology side of it, especially from a momentum and volume perspective. But I don't see enough discussions or enough right kind of discussions and support being available out there for building the people side of the capability of the house. So that's kind of where I want to make the difference. Like, okay, we need, yes, the tools will evolve, the tools will become smarter, but then at the end of the tool is only as good as the people they use. Yeah. So that's kind of where my heart lies. Yeah, and I know I've got a friend of mine, Heidi, here. She is a big proponent of the people and the policies there. So I'm pretty sure she's smiling there, hearing that yes, someone is thinking about the people there. So that's that. James, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's a good introduction to your sort of background and journey in cybersecurity. So I mean, you are obviously our founder, which is really good. So I mean, your mission is quite integral really to the background and the journey of cybersecurity. So I mean, from what you've seen in your career, what would make cybersecurity a rewarding career? Maybe based on your experiences and sort of industry trends and things like that. What would make cybersecurity a rewarding career for different types of people?
Okay, so I think just to kind of set some context there, right? I think it makes sense for people to just understand how I kind of started it and then what I feel is and was rewarding for me. So, and hopefully people can connect back to that. So I got thrown into cybersecurity, right? So I started my career in technology. Yeah. So I used to kind of sleep in data centers, if you like. And so that's what I used to do. I managed networks for internet service providers back in India. And then I kind of moved with the network technology to IBM, where I was like, well, you do network well. Can you do security? I was like, well, I can transfer some of the skills that I've learned over the years. So that's how kind of I got started into cybersecurity, right? And then kind of there's no looking back to that. And so in terms of rewarding, I think, is it easy? No, it's not easy. Is it fun? Yes. And I think that is kind of where I've stuck to cybersecurity and not kind of swayed away from it, although I've done different parts of cybersecurity, but it gives me that kind of broadness and depth. So it depends on if you want to be a generalist, you have the option. If you want to specialize, you have the option, right? And and you can kind of navigate between different things pretty easily. Within cybersecurity, it's quite a creative field, right? And with the evolution of technology, with the evolution of how people behave, it kind of all comes together, right? So yes, cybersecurity is one word or two words, how you look at that. But then when you look at it together, you can see and you can learn so much. I don't think, I mean, if I was doing anything else, I would get that opportunity. For example, my friends who are in finance, they work with numbers. Yes, they use tools, but they work with numbers day in and day out, right? They don't necessarily get to see what marketing does, what sales does, what the business people do, what the let's say the courier guy does. But in cybersecurity, you actually get to see everything. So it's pretty much like I'm having multiple careers within one careers. And that for me is kind of quite fascinating and rewarding. And that's kind of where I think people who have been in this industry, with the veterans of the industry, find it quite useful, is that some people who have wanted to be specialized, they've gone in and kind of mastered a particular thing or a particular line of art. People who have, like me, who want to know it all and learn it all, we have that kind of possibility. So just having the possibility makes a whole lot of difference in a career.
Yeah, sure. So I guess really there's different opportunities for different kinds of people, and that's a real strength of the different routes that you can take in the cybersecurity industry and the different roles and things that you can fulfill. I mean, just on that then, I mean, are there any sort of key challenges or key hurdles that people might face when entering into the cybersecurity industry in those different roles? Are there any sort of role specific challenges and hurdles, or any industry wide challenges and hurdles that you've seen?
Yes. So again, going back to how I kind of got thrown into this, right? And when I work with a lot of young minds, right? And people who are working to progress their career and stuff as part of my kind of just personal passion. So just kind of talking through them and understanding what they do, what they are kind of, what are the questions there, why are they struggling to find a job, right? So even people who have got masters in cybersecurity, they're not able to find a job. So which means there's something broken in the education system. They've got master's degrees, they've got all the certifications in the world, they're investing heavily in themselves. I mean, but are they getting a job? Not so easily. And I think in our industry, because things are evolving so fast, as leaders, the amount of burnout is quite high, which means that we want people to be almost ready when they come into the job, right? And obviously, you know that any job requires a little bit of ramp up time. But in our industry, because things are so fast evolving, there is not much appetite for a ramp up time. So which means that if someone comes out of fresh out of the college, they've only read about it, they've not seen anything, right? But the employer is expecting them to be ready to do the job on day one or maybe the day 5. Yeah. So that's kind of where people are struggling. Yeah. And yes, there are articles, there's news that yes, there's talent gaps, the leaders are struggling because they don't have the right team. But then are they willing to take the chance on the people, right? And are there the right amount and right kind of people who are willing to take chance on those young minds? Like, okay, fine, I'll give you a bit of training, make you ready for the role, and then yes, you can actually go and do the job. Because right now it's either you get a job, you struggle, you kind of like try to stay afloat. If you are smart enough, you learn. If you not, there's not enough support available. So those are kind of some of the challenges that I see, because some of my like nephews and niece, they have joined and they're like, well, there's not much that they are helping me, there's no guide available. And oh, I've seen this type of role on internet, is it the right role, who can I ask? So that's kind of that, we have created a bit of a sheer curtain, if you like, over our industry, and we're not very good at explaining things to people as generally as an industry. And that's where I think we are kind of struggling, that the demand and supply, there's a mismatch there. There's too many people, but are they the right kind of people? There's too much demand, but do we know how to create that right kind of pipeline, right? So that's kind of where the challenges that I see out there.
Do you think that's because the industry has moved so fast and so quickly with, you know, all the new technology age, that maybe training is and upskilling has struggled to catch up with that? Is that potentially a factor?
Yes, yes, I would say that's definitely a factor to that. And yes and no, I would say. So yes, because the trainings that I see in as part of like working with other organizations, I see that the management invests in a lot of technology training. So they buy a tool, they would send their team members on that particular tool training, right? But then the tool is the tool, and then the amount of tools that we have, just the sheer amount, makes it so difficult that the person who is actually using that tool, yes, they've gone and attended a 5-day training, but we all know how much can we really retain and learn in a 5-day training, right? But what are they going to really do with the tool is where the gap is. Yeah. And there's not, and the management is expecting that, oh, I've sent the person on a training and then he'll come and become for example, a security operations center expert in 5 days. That's just an unrealistic expectations, right? So we've done the job, we know the drill, but kind of that's kind of where it boils down to, that the fast pace, because we are so much technology dependent industry or technology focused industry, we kind of almost forget that, you know what, we still need to build that actual capability. Yes, you
Still
have the
deeply
SIEM.
involved,
Yes,
yeah.
you have all these tools. What do you really do with it? Yeah. And then because I mean, as part, I have another business which does implementation services. Now, my biggest challenge is, and in I would say 8 out of 10 cases, when I say, okay, what do you want to get out of the tool? There's almost a pin drop silence in the room, right? Which is kind of indicative of the fact that people are not really investing in the right kind of knowledge. They are more focused on, okay, this is the technology, this is where I can click the button. But is that what you really want to do? The technology is going to go away in the next however many months or years.
I guess then why did you start LSCS? Was that to sort of combat some of those key challenges in the industry, or to address those, I should say? And any sort of key challenges. What are the key challenges really in LSCS's mission?
Yeah, so I think there's two things that I want to kind of solve, right? And this thought kind of popped in my mind some kind of a 2.5 years ago. And I was like, well, one, I talked about how there's a pin drop silence when you ask the question, what do you want to achieve, right? And I'm like, well, if we are not doing, that's not the right thing to do by the industry. And then when you work with the youngsters, they're like, well, I've done all this, I've invested in my education, but I'm not getting a job. Yeah. And then I've also worked with some of the youngsters who are like, okay, I spent a couple of hours just explaining what they've learned in the class from a more practical perspective, and they could crack the interview very, very quickly. Yeah. So which means I'm like, when I look at all of this, yeah, I'm like, well, there is not anyone or not many known faces or people who actually want to invest their time and effort in actually helping the people learn the job, because the job is, yeah, the tool is the tool, yeah, but then there is a part of soft skills, there's a part of analytical skills, there's a whole lot of other things that needs to go into there. Yeah, there's no one who is really investing on anyone or telling anyone that, yes, you know what, to become a good security operations analyst or to become a good governance, risk and compliance analyst, these are the things you would need. You need to be able to write a document. You need to be able to make a presentation. For example, you need to be able to look at these screens. Yeah. And this is what it means. You need to be able to understand what a laptop looks like before you can start investigating it, right? And I've come across individuals who have worked like 3-4 years as a in security operations, and they would not know how where to find an IP address on a laptop. And I'm like, that's not the right thing. And that's exactly what I want to solve. Like, one is to create the right kind of talent. Yeah, there's tons of training available for tools, technologies, specific topics, but there's not much that actually gets someone ready for the role. And that's where I said, you know what, I don't want to teach anything to everyone. I want to make sure they're ready for a role. Yeah. So if I want to, and basically the way I looked at it is like, well, if I have to hire this person and get them to do a job, what are the 5 things I want them to know, right? So that's kind of where this whole idea of London School of Cybersecurity was born. And then I kind of tried and tested this with some of my trusted customers, saying, well, I want to do this, but I do want to kind of find the right way and the right model to do that. So I spent 2 years doing the research, making sure that the program actually fits, because it's one thing to kind of think about, yeah, I want to do this, but then you've got all the cogs in the wheels that needs to run together. So that's kind of where we are with London School today.
So yeah, so it'd be sort of correct to say that the mission really is kind of making sure people are actually really ready for that pipeline from training, upskilling, all the way through to actually embedding in the roles and all the skills that that requires. And maybe rather than just offering a sort of a 5-day course, as you mentioned, and that's absolutely fine. People learn in very different ways, and that can all work for different people. But it's really making sure people are ready for the role and the sort of the pipeline from qualification through to the roles and the people skills.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that kind of is important, right, James? So I talked about these young minds who are struggling to find the jobs, right? And the recruiters and the management, they're struggling to find the right CVs. So that was one other thing that I did want to, like, yes, I'll get these people ready, but I would connect them with the employers and recruiters, like, okay, and also, so we have partnered, and we are kind of increasing the number of partners who would be willing to kind of take these participants on board once they kind of go finish through these courses, because I didn't want to stop at training, because there's already enough training in the market. Yeah, train and then do what, right? Because the main goal is, and if you kind of recollect all the conversations we've been having with the interested people, they're like, okay, how can I get a job? That's the problem I want to solve, right? I'll teach you what you need to get the job, and then I'll connect you with, at least once you have an opportunity to work with someone and actually do a job, you are in the industry, right? Once your foot is in the door, then kind of the world is your oyster. You have to navigate yourself. I cannot make you what you want to or need to be, but I can at least give you that first step on the ladder, so you can then decide you want to go left, right, whichever direction, right? So that's kind of where my strategy is, like, well, I'll teach you, and then I'll get your foot in the door. Yeah, so, and hopefully they will then kind of continue that community and pay it forward.
Yeah, I think it can be very important sometimes just getting that foot in the door, as you mentioned, and then people can, using the knowledge and the skills they've learned, then can then make their own best informed decisions. So I mean, on that, I mean, can people pivot into cybersecurity from other industries and other fields, or does London School of Cybersecurity provide assistance and guidance with that in removing those barriers moving into the cybersecurity industry?
No, definitely you can move between from a different industry into cybersecurity. Yeah. So some of the, for example, I've moved from technology into cyber. I mean, there's nothing called a cyber, right? Because cyber is quite unique and fun, like I said, in its own way. That because it touches all the different areas of business, you can actually move from pretty much all of the business areas into cyber and kind of find your expertise, right? So if you are someone, for example, doing a compliance role in a financial crime or a regulatory compliance type role, or you are an auditor in currently, or a junior auditor, you can move to cybersecurity, because the governance risk and the practices are quite similar, right? Someone from the technology is a very easy transition, but the key piece is, especially for the technology people, is when you do technology, for example, if you're a network administrator or a security administrator or a systems administrator, you do security as part of your job. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But you need to be able to kind of grasp that yes, these are the security elements I'm doing, and then may transfer it to cybersecurity. Yeah, it just means that you'll start doing less of administration and more of security. But when you know both of them, you kind of master that art. So it definitely is possible. Now, coming to what help we provide, so that's kind of where some of our kind of partnerships with the industry leading recruiters and career counselors come into play, where we look at if someone comes with an experience, like, for example, I've been a financial auditor for 4 years. Now I want to move into cybersecurity. So we look at their current resume. We'll see, okay, these are the transferable skills. We actually go through a quick counseling discussion. Well, these are the transferable skills. These are the potential roles that can get your foot in the cybersecurity world. But again, being in finance doesn't mean you don't understand technology or you don't want to learn something else. That's totally possible and doable. But to get to transition into another industry, you usually would want like something that you can easily transfer, right? So that's something that is available within our kind of curriculum, that if someone comes with an existing experience, we'll look at that, take them through a bit of counseling discussion, and then say, okay, these are the possible roles that you can fit into.
Yeah, because from what I understand, then if you know about the qualifications and the courses that the LSCS are offering, all of them are designed to be accessible by people who haven't worked in the industry before. So you know, whether you've worked in, as you said, finance, tech, or whatever, when you're actually coming and onboarding and learning these new skills and qualifications, they're designed to be accessed by anybody, regardless of what level of background knowledge you've got. So yeah, I think that's really um, an important factor when actually deciding if cybersecurity is something you want to move into, and the amount of support that you've got with those qualifications. So yeah, I think that's some important to highlight and important for people to know, to not really be scared of jumping into cybersecurity, and that it can be very welcoming for people of all different backgrounds and technical sort of knowledge. So I mean, then just on that, with the training, how much contact time can students expect with trainers, and a bit about the format of the courses then, once or if they were to enroll?
Okay, so that was a very hard decision for me to make. I'll be very honest, right? Because I was like, I want to give everything to everyone, but then what really makes sense, yeah? And then I did walk through, and the 2-year pilot that kind of helped me come to that. So essentially, it's the courses are 6 months long, yeah. So it's a 24-week course. So the last 4 weeks is essentially you do the job, yeah. So that's kind of your formal internship, apprenticeship, depending on the country you're dialing in from, would call them differently. But the first 5 months is kind of more hands-on, more learning, yeah. So from a contact hour perspective, we are looking at 2 60 to 90-minute session every week, yeah, and followed by 1 office hour. So office hours is optional, and again, depending on if people want to ask more, learn more. So that's kind of that. And but at minimum, there's like 2 cross 60 to 90-minute session. One is a 60, one is a 90-minute session every week, and then followed by we have taken a tiered approach from a learning perspective. So we start with the base. The contact time is slightly higher, the assignment slightly kind of on the lower side. Then as we go up the tier, the contact time starts reducing to a 90-minute course every week, followed by a more stronger or heavier project-based or hands-on based experience, so that they can actually do the job, learn that, okay, if we are talking about creating a document or conducting an investigation, what really goes into that. So we give them the space and the use case, saying, okay, go and do this. And definitely the office hours will continue throughout the 6 months. So they have got someone to always fall back on.
Yeah, I think that's important as well, because as I mentioned earlier, everybody does learn in different ways. So actually having that variety of sort of different learning options and contact times and assessment pieces, I think as well lends itself very, very productively to people learning in a way that works for them, and sort of embedding those skills and actually taking on board that knowledge to then apply. Okay, yeah, I think that's good to know. And the next cohort of courses, when are those kind of starting? If people were interested, just to know that for the various courses.
Well, the next cohort is actually, I'm now looking at the calendar. It starts in a few days on the 1st of March, actually. Oh boy, you asked a tough question, James. I just kind of looked at the calendar. I'm like, oh, it's starting on the 1st of March.
Exciting though, exciting
Yes,
to be kicking
exciting,
off.
exciting, nervous, all kind of emotions. I think is quite. It's been a long road, and I think my heart is at good place. So and I kind of like, I hope one day we'll be able to do kind of a lot, but right now my intention is that even if it's a handful, I want to do right by them. I want to teach them the right thing, and I want to make sure that they're learning from the values that we are bringing in. We're able to get them to the right employment, get their foot in the door, and kind of, and then hopefully that will create a community where they will then start kind of giving it back to the community, like some of my co-founders in Women in Cybersecurity here. I can see Irene and Heidi here. So Yeah, so we are big believers in giving it back to the community. So I think we all have had our unique journey. So that's kind of, I think, quite yeah, that's all I want to achieve right now. So I'm just kind of focused, laser focused on that. Like, how can we get more people? I don't want to read those articles anymore. There's just too much spam in my inbox saying there's not enough talent. Are you hiring? I'm like, I don't want to hear all that. Like, let's. Yes, Danny, thank you.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
I think the mission of London School of Cybersecurity LSCS is super important for all the reasons we've mentioned today. I'm glad to be on board. And I mean, just on that last point, if anybody was interested in finding out more, feel free to reach out to either myself, James Lancer, or Priyanka, or any of the sort of LinkedIn or website channels that we've got, and we'll be more than happy to speak with you about any other details, any other questions you might have, or anything like that. So yeah, I think we're sort of come just about on time here. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of really insightful questions and points, which, thank you everybody for joining live, and also anybody else who is going to be watching later online when we when the video sort of circulates. So yeah, as I said, feel free to anybody who wants to get in contact with us. We'll be more than happy to speak. I mean, Priyanka, was there anything else you wanted to add to the audience here, or?
No, as you were just kind of wrapping it up, just a message popped up
Oh
on my
yeah.
LinkedIn, right? And it's a funny note. I'm just gonna read it just for everyone's kind of. I think I kind of am quite amused by that. So it says that, how do we know? So this is from an interested candidate, right? So Priyanka, I appreciate what you're doing. How do we know this is not a spam? Because obviously we see a lot of such emails, right? That, oh, you transfer X amount of money, I'll get you a job in wherever, right? So yeah, so I'm gonna have to speak to the person, and it's quite cool. I'm like in the world of artificial intelligence now. I think with the trust levels are decreasing,
Yeah.
but then again, I think that's kind of where I'm kind of like, okay, fine. I know I have to uh, answer to these questions, but my fact is like, you invest in your career and I'll help you kind of get your foot in the door. That's all I want to do. You don't have to kind of, you will get learning. You don't have to kind of not see me. So I think that's kind of one thing that I did want to kind of just mention, because it just kind of literally popped up and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting question.
No, it's absolutely true. I think it's important that we keep the human factor. And I'd like to think that we're not AI generated videos now. So by doing webinars and engaging with the community, I think building that trust is really important, actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm actually doing a course on AI now, and in my mind, right, so I'm amazed at what it does, and then my cyber brain is like, oh my God, I don't like what I'm seeing. So
It's
it's kind of,
scary.
my brain is literally split head when I'm on the sessions, and it's quite fascinating, but I suppose it's part of the journey. So I'm still learning.
Absolutely. No, well, yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'm just conscious now if anybody has to return back to their day. But yeah, thank you very much for joining, and Priyanka as well for the really insightful knowledge that you've shared with us today. So yeah, hope everybody has a great rest of the week and a great Monday. And we'll hopefully see some of you again soon.
Yep. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and for supporting. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Take care
you.
then. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.